All right. Well, hello, everyone. This is Mazske Finance coming to you here again live on Tuesday, January the 11th of 2022. And I have what I'm calling a breaking interview. It's an interview with a gentleman I've gotten to know over the past, about 13 months or so. And his name is Tom Gray. So, Tom, go ahead and say hello to everyone and tell us a little bit about yourself if you can.
Yeah. Hello, everybody. I met Mark, or I say I met Mark. I've never met Mark in person, but Mark became an investor with us back right before Christmas last year, or the year before last. And we've become pretty good friends. I'm with King Operating. We are oil and gas exploration, E&P company. And I've been with the company for 17 years. I don't know, Mark, what else do you want to know about me? I love to hunt. I love to fish. I'm from Texas. And that's about it.
All right. Well, that sounds good then. And you said you've been, if I heard you right, you've been with King for 17 years, correct?
17 years. Yes, sir.
Okay. That sounds good. My last career, I spent 20 years as a police officer, but I'm now retired. So, but anyway,
thanks for your service as usual.
Oh, thank you. And well, I guess if you want to, maybe go ahead and tell everyone who King Operating Corporation is and what you all do.
Yeah, as I said, we're an exploration and production company. We're a Texas operator, have been for 25 years. As I said, I've been here 17 of those. Our president, Jay Young, started the company more than 25 years ago, but we've been an actual operator, and that's all done under the Texas Railroad Commission. We drilled hundreds of wells, mostly in West Texas and the Permian Basin. But what we changed our model back in 2015, and this is what Mark, I think, really liked about the diversity of our assets that we have. In this particular fund and the funds before it, we have 6 different assets, and we actually are adding a 7th one, which we'll talk about a little bit later. But we've got assets, 4 assets in Texas, and you just can't say one asset in Texas because you have East Texas, which is our gas, primarily a gas asset. We've got West Texas in the Permian Basin, which is the largest oil field in the world. We've got assets in South Texas that are a mix of gas and oil. We've got assets up in far North Texas on the Panhandle, even into Oklahoma. We have some acreage. We have over 110,000 acres, and then we've got assets also in Colorado. We've also have an asset in Colorado that is non-tributary water that we are working with I believe it's Basic Energy on, and Jay just mentioned it. Matter of fact, Mark and I just got off a webinar, kind of an investor update. We have non-tributary water up there that we're doing reverse osmosis treatment on. And non-tributary water in Colorado is just unbelievable, and that asset in itself could be worth a bunch of money. But long story short, what we do is we go find distressed assets, much like the real estate industry. We go out, find distressed assets, and we have 136 wells that are producing in this asset. We go into the engineers, geologists will go in to those areas that they think are the lowest hanging fruit. We'll do reworks on those wells. We brought our revenues from 5% up to 9% in the last 6 months, just by doing that. And now we're getting ready to finally get to the big stuff, which is drilling new wells.
All right. Yeah, it sounds pretty good. It's been pretty exciting because I've been along on the ride since December of 2020 with that first small investment.
Correct.
And yeah, and real quick, since I mentioned starting December 2020, correct me if I'm wrong, but investing in oil and oil drilling and natural gas, it does have tax benefits, correct?
Correct. Those are IDCs, intangible drilling costs. And what that allows you to do, and this goes back to the Reagan administration trying to get more oil and gas drilling done in the United States, and bring in investors, and it's for everybody. I mean, Exxon, Chevron, everybody uses it. If you didn't have tax advantages, you wouldn't be able to do the type of work that we're doing, quite frankly. But what it allows you to do, it's IDCs, and IDCs and tangible drilling costs. You're able to write off your investment. In our particular case, it's between 83 and 88% the first year against your adjusted gross income. So that is a very good caveat to our program. What we want to do is make people money, though. But right there's a huge money maker. And Mark, I know you benefited from that, which you dipped your foot in back in right before Christmas of 2020. And you can tell a little bit about your story with your CPA and how that went.
Sure. Well, as you know, I made my first investment in December of 2020. I think you told me the date was December 17th, I believe.
It was the 17th, yeah.
All right, sounds good. And what I did, I'm not, I can share this number. I think I've shared it before on my channel, but I invested $25,000. And around March of 2021, I received what's called a K-1, which is a statement that came from King Operating Corporation. They mailed it to me. I gave that to my CPA. And when my taxes were done for the year 2020, for my adjusted gross income, my investment of $25,000, the CPA could write off $20,501 off of my adjusted gross income from that $25,000 investment. And that just amazed me because I've invested in stocks for years. And when I invest in stocks, I don't get a tax write-off. I invest in real estate, and yes, I can write off a lot of my expenses, but I don't per se write off the money I put into buying real estate. But now with this oil investment, I put $25,000 into it, and I write off almost the entire amount in that first tax year, which was just fantastic.
Yeah, it's pretty unbelievable, and that's obviously that's one big reason that people love oil and gas. You do have to be an accredited investor. I know Mark went over that in one of his previous shows, but you do have to be an accredited investor. And it's not just the tax write-off, the monthly income. We plan to grow our monthly income. Right now, I think last month we were almost 9% annualized returns. I'm not bragging about that, not yet. I'll brag about it when we drill these next two wells up in the Marmington Formation up in North Texas. But the rig is moving there right now. Let me finish taxes first real quick, though. Mark kind of told you his story. Tax implications. I mean, Mark's in Florida, so they're kind of like Texas. I mean, they don't have a state tax and all that, but the people in New York, California, I believe, or Washington, I think has a state tax, and there's a few others, but they just get taxed to death. And being able to not only make money on your investment, but also write it off at the same time is a pretty sweet thing. And over the course of about a 4 to 5 year period, you'll actually write that off, your whole investment 100% over time, which is really, really, really cool. But that's that's kind of how the tax thing works. What else did you want to talk about, Mark?
All right, Tom. Well, if you have time and you want to cover it, maybe talk a little bit about the actual drilling process for both oil and natural gas, and maybe if you feel comfortable with it, what kind of returns could we expect from here on as 2022 progresses?
Yeah, let me put up the little thing. This has forward-looking statements, because you never know what's going to happen when the drill bit touches the ground. Our geologists, engineers, geophysicists do a tremendous job of picking where we're drilling. We're drilling in fields that have been drilled in before. Most of them have been drilled vertically, and we're going to be going in and drilling horizontally, which means basically you're coming down and you're making a curve, and that curve will, to curve that pipe, it takes a pretty big curve to do that, because you can't just go and do an L shape, obviously. But that's what we're going to be doing up in the Marmington Formation, and quite frankly, all the areas we're going to be drilling. It'll be a 1.5 mile lateral, about 8,500 feet vertical. So if you're 8,500 feet vertical, you're actually going to start that curve probably at around 7,600. So right here is the formation that you want to be in. And that's the key to drilling horizontal wells, is that you're drilling into the formation that you are going to produce from, and then you're going to frack it. So drilling a vertical well, you're just going to get this little bit of oil right there. You know what I'm saying? You drill horizontally, so you're going down, making the curve, drilling horizontally into the formation, and then fracking that with a sand and water mix at very high pressures. And it's exactly what we're going to be doing in your program, Mark, up in the Marmington, and then we'll be going to East Texas and doing that. The Marmington is oil, East Texas is going to be gas, West Texas is going to be oil, and Wyoming will also be oil. But not getting real technical, that's what we're going to be doing up there. You'll be fracking at 5,000 PSI. The ground shakes. I mean, it's fun. Mark's going to make it out hopefully soon. Matter of fact, after this, we're going to try to talk about some dates individually, but it'll be fun times. I mean, especially if we can, we're going to drill these 2 wells back to back, and then we'll also frack them back to back. So if you want to make a drilling and a frack, you're going to have to come twice. So unfortunately.
All right. Well, for the actual, once that rig is on location and starts drilling, and then you follow it up with fracking, how long does that actually take? Is that a couple of days, is it a week, 2 weeks, or how long?
Yeah, different areas of the country have different drilling penetration rates. Where we're drilling up in the Marmington is not as hard of rock, so to speak, as it is, say, in West Texas. West Texas takes a longer time to drill, different kinds of bits and stuff like that. And by the way, this will be a 4.5 inch casing. So we'll be drilling a little bigger than a 4.5 inch, so we can also run the pipe in there after we're done. Okay, just to enlighten everybody on how that works, because you just don't drill a hole and open frack it. You also put what's called production casing in there, and then when you frack it, you actually put what's called a gun down there and shoot holes through the pipe, and then you come down with the water and sand at very high pressures and frack the formation. But to answer your question, you're talking about probably on a 1.5 mile lateral out here, you're talking about probably 20 to 25 days, somewhere in that area. and then we'll drill the other well. Same type thing, 20, 25 days. Knock on wood, barring any bits getting stuck, stuff like that. But knock on wood, that won't happen. If it does, we just go in and fish it out. It just costs you a couple of days, and you got to pull all the pipe out and all that good stuff. It costs money when you get stuck, put it that way. So we don't want that. And then the frac will probably take 2 days. And the rig never stops working. You're going 24/7, 2 12-hour crews. Same with the frac. You'll frac it until it's done. So it'll be really fun. We'll have a lot of video, a lot of still pictures of when we're out there. I'll be out there myself on and off as well.
So, all right, that sounds good then. And as you mentioned, our returns last month were about 9%,
Right.
and they've gone up. I think I got my first returns. It was like May, June timeframe, and pretty much every month up till last month, it's been an increase in returns. So, looking ahead, would you expect that we'll be consistent at 9%, 10%, or do you think when the wells get drilled, will we see some sort of jump up? And it's all forward-looking statements. So
yeah, obviously. And you just listened to Chandler Knox, who's our operations guy. He's very excited. Matter of fact, he'll be rolling out of here. I think either tonight or tomorrow to be out there, because he's going to be overseeing that job out there. But yes, we do expect our returns, depending on what oil and gas prices are, jump anywhere. And it depends on what comes out of the ground. These wells typically come in 400, 700 barrels a day. So we could be anywhere from 20% to 40% annualized returns, somewhere in that range. That's what we're shooting for.
Okay, well, that sounds pretty good to me.
So it'll be a good jump. I mean, and you hear Chandler, he's pretty confident about it. Jay's obviously confident about it. We've got to cherry pick these locations. Okay, and that has a lot to do with geology, engineering, geophysics, geophysicists that look at maps. The blessing that we have a ton of old logs. In other words, old well bores that have been logged. That's where you go down with a logging tool and log it, and they can look at the resistivities, the porosity, the permeability of the rock properties is what they call that. And they actually take samples, and as we go, we'll be taking samples as well. And there's a truck that sits there, and the guy just sits there every 100 feet and catches a sample of when you're drilling, you're drilling with like mud and water. It's called drilling mud. It's almost like a clay is what it is. But there's a little trap there that they use to catch some of those, some of that fine granules that come back up when you're drilling. They'll put that under a microscope, look at it, and see if it has fluorescence to it. And it also lets them know that they're in the zone because it's oily. They're going to see oil in it. And there's also a guy that's called a geosteerer. I'm probably getting too much, Mark, but I told you I would do this.
That's fine.
But there's a geosteerer too, and how thick or how thin the mud is, they can actually guide that bit as it's going horizontal. So if it looks like they're going up too high, they can add or subtract the amount of mud, and it'll drop the bit or lift the bit up, whatever they want to do, and that's called a geosteerer. And basically, there's a Kroger behind me here, and these days you could drill a well from where I'm at and hit the O in the middle of the Kroger on a straight dead line these days. It used to be back in the days when they first started, drilling sideways, it would just pigtail. They wouldn't know what they were doing. Now you have geosteering. So I got a little deep there, Mark. I told you I would probably do that.
That's fine, Tom. I appreciate that because it helps me to better understand it, and anyone who watches this, it'll help them to better understand it as well.
Yes, sir.
And as it was said in the webinar that we watched, the fund is accepting more investors, correct?
Correct. Once we added the Wyoming project, which Mark probably knows as much as I know, and I'm embarrassed to say this about the Wyoming project right now as we speak. It kind of fell in our lap, but we are going to add it into the fund. After Mark and I are done, I'm going to be going upstairs and learning more about it, as I think I already said, but it's going to be tremendous. It's blanket depositional formats. In other words, it's a layer cake of oil, and we're gonna do the same thing. It's a bunch of old vertical wells that have been drilled down, and we're going to go out there and drill them horizontally. Brand new wells. You can't re-enter an old well bore and take it sideways. You got to have 4.5, 5.5 diameter pipe to be able to frack with these days. So we're very excited about that. And yes, we are taking on new investors, and anybody that knows Mark can give him a ring and tell him about us. You're more than welcome to call me. My number here is 972-930-1161. Over the course of this drilling period, the best way to probably get me is on my cell phone, 214-415-3894.
So, all right, that sounds good, Tom. I appreciate that. And if it's okay, in the when I upload this video, I can put, say, your office number in the description if you want me to, or maybe an email address.
Yeah, if you want to put that up, that'd be great.
All right, sounds good. Well, we've covered quite a bit here. So like I do with all my interviews, Tom, I will give you the last word. So once again, the floor is yours, and whatever you want to say.
Well, we're obviously very excited. And Mark can even, anybody that's interested, we have a weekly roundtable, which Mark usually doesn't miss them. If he does, we send a recorded deal out to you on that. But if you want to participate in our roundtables, you're more than welcome. Give me a call. Just shoot me your email. My email, I guess Mark will put up my email, but my email is tgray, Gray, @kingoperating.com. Just shoot me an email. I can put you on our list. No pressure, no nothing. We just want people to learn different ways of making money out there. And we'd love to have you if you chose to be an investor with us, no doubt about it.
So, all right, that sounds good, Tom. And so we'll go ahead. I guess we'll wrap this up. But anyone watching this, Tom and I will probably do this again, maybe in a couple months, when we can update. Tom can update us all on the progress that the wells have made. So, all right. Well, with this, I think I'm going to wrap things up. So thank you all for watching, and Mazske Finance will be signing out. Thanks again, Tom.
Thanks, Mark.